Ratchet Clank Rift Apart was Sony's poster child for the PlayStation 5's exciting new storage tech, with levels loading so fast you switch between game worlds without ever seeing so much as a buffering icon. In porting it over to the PC, developers Insomniac and Nixxes had to take into account the reality that not every PC has an SSD, and so somehow make a game that was designed for super fast flash storage work on spinning Rust. Let's see how that worked out. First, I need to set a baseline. For this, I'm running through the first level of Ratchet Clank Rift Apart on my usual moderately priced test rig, featuring a Ryzen 5 5600X, 32GB of RAM, an RTX 3070, and a pair of NVMe SSDs. One basic Gen 3 OEM drive containing Windows 10 and my page file, the other being the 2TB Western Digital SN770 Gen 4 I was using for storing games. This isn't the absolute best SSD I could get. It doesn't have any kind of DRAM cache, which means that while transferring large amounts of data, it does slow down after a few seconds, and its read and write speeds are only about half that of the best Gen 4 drives available. By comparison, my hard drive is a 7200 RPM 500GB Seagate Barracuda, which isn't that old and hasn't had that much use as these things go. From the first half hour of gameplay, up as far as the title card, the SSD experience is smooth but not flawless. I'll point towards the frame time graph at the top of the screen. It's a bit spiky throughout the whole test run, and as the scene transitions from the back of Rivet's head to the back of Ratchet's, there is a noticeable stutter. The same occurs later on, as Ratchet is rapidly passing between rifts. Again, each transition brings with it some slight stuttering, which quickly goes away. Out of interest, actually, I tried turning on VSync to see if that remedied the problem. As it is, the VSync didn't resolve the stutters, but nor did it result in a perfect 60 FPS, despite the PC clearly having enough horsepower. Using Reaver Tuner to cap the framerate instead of VSync is much more effective at flattening the frame time graph. Comparing the hard drive footage, and the stutter in the first scene transition is pretty significant, causing a fairly long pause in the visuals while the audio carries on uninterrupted. The game is aware of this stutter and compensates by skipping forwards in the cutscene. It's distracting but survivable. I can't help but think that an even slower drive might miss whole chunks of cutscene, however. In the portal sequence, there's far more lost time through stuttering, and no way for the game to compensate for it, so there are moments where Ratchet and Clank are hanging in space, waiting for data to load in. Turning on VSync actually helps dramatically in both cutscenes, and while not on par with the SSD, each transition loads in more quickly than without VSync. So, cutscenes and transitions between areas are noticeably better on SSD than hard drive, and both of these are major factors within this game. But how's gameplay itself? Well, other factors like the CPU, RAM and GPU are of course going to make a difference, but as far as I can tell so far, the storage doesn't seem all that significant. Even large set pieces like this one don't seem to perform any worse running on the hard drive. And for that matter, VSync's impact also seems minor. There are some minor performance issues with Ratchet & Clank which hardware alone can't fix right now. Digital Foundry saw some of the same loading stutters I did, but using a much higher end rig, so it could be that this is something a later patch will have to fix. The point is, the PC version of Rift Apart doesn't have a perfect scenario for loading data, at least not yet. Hard drives are generally best avoided these days for gaming, and now is as good a time as any if you're looking to upgrade to flash storage, but I have to say, I was surprised how tolerable the hard drive experience could be. If you have enough performance to spare, you can put a cap on your frame rate and reduce the issues that come from using old spinning Rust. Thanks for watching, kindly do the usual YouTube things if you feel so inclined, and I'll see you next time.